Now we are going to have an honor to have Antoine Isaac, and who is the European R&D manager, and he's going to address. His topic is addressing data quality issues at Europeana. Anton, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you very much for the honor to be here. It's really great to have been invited, and I hope everyone is having a great day. So today I am going to try to give you a glimpse into the data quality issues at Europeana and how we try to address them. So this is not only my work. I want to be clear about it. I'm involved in a working group called the Europeana Tech Data Committee, and a lot of the things that I'm going to present is the outcome of their efforts. So, as I don't know many of you in the audience are familiar with what Europeana is, I'm going to have first a quick presentation of what is Europeana. So it is essentially an initiative from the European Union. Europeana.eu publishes over 50 million digitized objects from something like 4,000 libraries, archives, and museums throughout Europe. We have a portal that's Europeana.eu, but we also enable machine access to the data that we have. So for programmers who want to reuse cultural heritage data, they can do so via our API. And in terms of who is behind Europeana, so we are a non-profit Europeana foundation. That's a rather small organization, but around us there's a community of more than 2,000 experts in digital heritage, so the so-called Europeana network. A small part of which you can see a picture here on this slide. And those people are working towards making culture more accessible in Europe, and actually this network effect is also visible in the way Europeana is technically organized. And I have this slide to explain what is properly inside Europeana. Because Europeana is an initiative that aggregates mostly metadata. So we have descriptive and technical information about cultural heritage work, the title, the creator, the subject, the right, and that is really the core of how Europeana can provide access. We also have some other kind of data like editorial content, things like virtual exhibitions. We also have some contributions from users, for example, transcription or various kind of annotations. And for making the portal work, we have a copy of images of the content. But this is only thumbnails. As a rule, the digitized content is still served on our partners' website. So Europeana is a portal. People find references to cultural heritage objects on Europeana, and then if they really want to consume the material, then they get to for a specific museum website, for example. And that really that really explains why metadata is so important. In terms of flow, the data providers, so the cultural heritage institutions, they give us this metadata and the link to digitized content, and then the metadata comes to us via what we call aggregators, which are our organizations or projects that gather data either for a specific country or for a specific domain. So we've got aggregators for fashion, for archaeology, and other domains. Now, this is the big picture, so to say, but how can metadata work for Europeana? So we try to follow linked open data best practices. So we've got a nice video which you can see for yourself after the workshop. that explains why Europeana is interested in linked data. And a bit more concretely, linked data has been important for us as an inspiration for a number of parts of our infrastructure. The first of them being the data model. Inspired by linked data, we were able to come with a data model that we think enables our service to work better, and where the data does not only consist of simple text strings, as it used to be maybe 20 years ago, but the metadata now consists of a network of connected resources that stand for either the cultural object or for entities that are around it, like the persons involved in the creation of the object, the concepts that the object is about. And this more complex representation allows to get richer data, and especially for Europeana, one interesting point is that we can get some translations. So now, instead of getting the subject of a book, for example, as just one text in one language, we can get it as a concept which is translated in several languages, and that's really important for us because we have to serve users in all those different languages. So that's the nice picture on the paper. In reality, we have a lot of data quality issues, and this presentation now enters the part where we are not really boasting what we have, because we have to be honest. When organizations they begin to embark on projects like ours, they will face those issues. So we have to be careful of how to handle them. The first one is the sparseness of the metadata. So the fact that for many objects we don't have a lot of data. So here on these slides, it's actually a bit provocative. It's an example from the past several years ago. Now, hopefully, we don't have this low-level data anymore. But it's basically an object for which we did not have a title, we did not have a description, we did not have a subject. We just knew that it was an image, and it came from a specific organization. And actually, we did not have even the image. The link was broken. So it was problematic both on the metadata level and on the content level. So very little information and no content. So that's extremely frustrating for users, of course. The second issue that we have is the one of heterogeneity. So we receive data from 4,000 institutions, as I've already said. And of course, that means that we receive data that is about many different themes, many different types of objects, and all the cultural heritage institutions, the libraries, the archives and the museums, they have different ways to describe the object. There's not one right way to describe an object. So they all do to try to fit the best practices in their field, which is good when organizations act in isolation or within a very specific domain. But when it comes to a broad domain, then there can be some issues. And we have what we dare to believe a good data model, but still there was a lot of data mapping problems, a lot of data conversion problems when our partners would give us the data. And finally, the big problem we have is multilinguality. So we receive data from 44 countries. Officially, it's in 38 languages, but officiously there are many more. This data often actually does not come with language information, or sometimes it comes with language information that is incorrect. So this is not easy to manage. And of course, the outcome of those three very broad areas where we have problems, they mean that there is an impact for the Europeana users. For the end users of the portal, we have key requirements for good discovery, for good information retrieval on the website, which are not met. So it's hard sometimes to enable scenarios like, well, just basic search and retrieval of objects with high precision. It's hard to provide a search and retrieval of objects that were across languages, across countries. And nowadays, when one wants to build a portal like Europeana, and well, actually even cultural heritage portal in general, people, users, they want to browse by dates, they want to browse by subjects, so they want a rich access to the collections, and that is not possible if the data is not good enough. And then even not on the portal, so we have this category of users that use our APIs, as I mentioned, so they really use the data, and there's a whole range of problems for data reusers. So maybe you have heard, or that has been mentioned, perhaps even today for you. There are those FAIR principles to measure the quality of data that is exchanged in scientific contexts or in more professional contexts. So findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Those things, of course, they are much less high when there are data problems like the one that I've shown. So how we approach data quality issues. So the first solution that we try to apply is to make some basic rules that tell people what they have to give. So in our Europeana data model, we have rules that say that some fields, some metadata fields, must be present. So for example, it's mandatory to have a title or a description. There should be at least one of properties that says the temporal or the spatial coverage of an object, the subject on an object, the type of an object, so things like that. So core description. There must be something that says whether it's a text, an image, a video, or sound, or a 3D object. And there must be language information when it's a text. So I'm sorry, I'm using the technical names of the metadata fields on this slide, so maybe not all of you are familiar with them, but this is actually how things are. So behind the data model, there is a schema that formalizes the constraints, and I'm fairly sure that you have seen example of such schemas in previous presentations. For example, the one by Karen, who presented some validation rules for metadata. So our basic data obligations, they are a bit like this. So we say we look at the metadata records and we test whether some fields are here or are not here. The second level is one that is a bit softer, so to say. So we don't say that a metadata record is good or not if a field is not there. What we do is that we try to measure the presence of some things in the data, and that is both for the content and the metadata. Actually, we also check the images, for example, or the sounds that we receive. For the content, which is what on this slide, we've got 4 quality tiers, which actually investigate whether for example, an image is of high quality and whether it has some copyright which allows to use it quite easily. So the higher the quality of the image, so the higher the resolution, and the more open the content is, then the higher tier it is. So the idea that, for example, an image which is in content tier 4, it will allow a lot more things than something that is in tier 0, because it will have higher resolution, so people can reuse it in more applications, and because it will be more open in terms of copyright, they can use it in more applications. So it's also a matter of reward for the cultural heritage institutions that provide Europeana the data. So the more they give, the more they get. So that was for the content. But there was nothing for the metadata except what I presented before with the very basic data obligation. So the group that I've mentioned when I started my talk, the Europeana Data Quality Committee, they started to investigate whether we could do something on the metadata. And we have some basic principles which say that what Europeana does it must be consensual, it must be easy and rewarding for partners, it must be agreed by everyone. So that's why we set up this group to discuss those things. So that if we wouldn't make some proposal, we know that proposals are not easy to apply, we know that it's hard to get the stakeholders interested in those things, and it's hard to talk with them actually, because as you have seen in the diagram that explains the flow of data in Europeana, sometimes the organization that produces data, we don't talk to them directly. So we have to get guidelines that are clear and that are motivating for them. So we have set up a working group to make recommendation on how to go further than the basic data validation. And the first result that we had was an extension of this system of quality tiers that I've mentioned. So it's not only on on content now, it's also about metadata. So we have identified three main pillars of metadata quality that we want to measure progress. The language, the elements of metadata that are present in record, and finally the third pillar is the presence of information about the context. And for each of these three pillars, we measure the quality of the data and we give a score. It's either A, B, or C. It's a bit like the content levels. The higher the score, the more scenarios are possible with the data. Excuse me. So this way, the partners of Europeana, they also have more information about whether they do better. So we don't really. So this is not about rejecting their data for the moment. It's really about measuring and saying what is good and what is less good. And so we have implemented that. So now everyone in Europeana can see how good the metadata is against this score. So again on this slide, so that's the sort of speech that we say when we explain the score. So the more language attributes, the more happy user can access Europeana in their own language. The more metadata elements there are, the easier it is to find collections by subject, by type, etc. And the more links to context, the more links to vocabularies, because we do get this context information in the thesauri, in the classification schemes that already exist in museum, libraries, and archives. And with the more of those links to context, the better users can browse Europeana using the person, the place, or the concepts that they know about. So we have embarked on that, and now we are looking at a third option to address data quality, which is to report on what we call the long tail of problems. So we have data validation, we have quality scores, they are useful, but they have limits too. So there's still a whole gray area of data that is okay, but not so great. And we have embarked on defining what we call problem patterns, where the quality is a bit more subjective and where we try to look at those gray areas. And we want to create a system where the reports for the data provider can be more detailed, so that they can see the problems and they can act on them. And maybe even we will try to fix some of them by normalizing data. So this is an example of some of the problems that we have identified. So, for example, the first one is the use of the same title across a collection. So it could be that a collection comes to us with some good titles, but they would be repeated. So, for example, there would be a collection with many vases, and each vase has one title, which is vase, and that can be a problem, because then there's no way to distinguish one vase from the other, and we want to be able to report on things like this. So this is still work in progress, and I would like really, because this is my last slide, and I would like to give you as take-home messages that yes, we do face big quality problems. And it may look daunting, and it may look like, okay, well, this is Europeana, they're a specific project, but actually a lot of people in the field, they have those problems. So people may say, oh yeah, language, that's only for Europeana. No, actually, even a project within one country, they can get languages that are different in their collections, and they have to do a good job with it. Then the third message is that all this quality issue management require a lot of technical work, but it also requires discussion. So all those problems, they are very subjective sometimes, and it requires everyone to agree before we start making some technical work on, for example, to report them, because some people will say, oh, but your reports include things, for me they are not problems. So we need to have consensus. And for this, having some shared vision and frameworks like in data helps a lot, because we can refer to them. We can say, okay, we are asking you to give this data, but well, it's not only us. It is a best practice in the linked data community. Well, that's a bit repeating what I've already said. The strong commitment of everyone is crucial. And finally, all this is quite humbling. We are making progress, but this is really step by step. The steps are not very big. It requires a lot of time, and yeah, everyone needs to be aware of this when trying to manage those data quality issues. So that was my last slide. I hope that this was okay, but I've not been too fast. I'm really sad I could not be with you today, but hopefully you have my contact in the program, or you can ask Sam if you have any questions that there wouldn't be time to ask today. Then you can send me messages, and I will gladly answer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions to Antoine? All right. That means you did a perfect job. Thank you, Antoine. We really appreciate it. And